Good day, everyone. My name is Engine Cadet Federo John Lawrence S. from University of Cebu, MTC campus. Me and my teammates are going to do a video to our assigned task, which is all about Asian regionalism. But before we proceed, let me tell you that this is for educational use only, and our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardinas, to use this as an educational material. And at the end of the discussion, you will learn what is regionalism, what is Asian regionalism, and why there is an Asianism, and what are the examples of Asian regionalism. So what is regionalism? Based from our PowerPoint, regionalism is a political ideology which seeks to increase the political power, influence, and/or self-determination of the people of one or more subnational regions. This means that regionalism is an ideology which aims to increase nations' power by engaging to other nations. This is more likely a nations building. Examples of this is first, the free trade areas, which means a group of countries that have few or no barriers to trade in the form of tariffs or quotas between each other. And the second one is custom union, an agreement between two or more countries to remove trade barriers and lower or eliminate tariffs. Third is a common market, which is a formal agreement where a group is formed amongst several countries that adopt common external tariff. And lastly, economic union, which is defined as a type of trade bloc which is composed of a common market which with a custom. Thus, these examples could be the factors why a certain nation grows or develop faster. Also, because of this regionalism, it can create bearing with other countries and improves their relationship by engaging one another and lesser war and provide economic progress. For instance, Asian regionalism is the product of economic interaction, excuse me, not political planning, and they mainly focuses on economic progress and not in political side. Example of that is when one's country is borrowing money from the other country to make progress in their country, and the other is exporting and importing products for their people living on each country, specifically on Asian countries, which it can create to successful outward oriented growth strategies. And Asian economies have grown not only richer but also closer together. From the word closer together, it enhances trust and develop or improve relationships by engaging and or interconnecting with one another in a way of private meeting forums in neighboring countries in Asia. Asian regionalism is quietly the same to other regionalism such as European regionalism and etc. But their main difference is their goals and objectives. Because Asian regionalism is focuses more in economic side, and European regionalism is focuses on the solutions in new problems and challenges which has an impact on national political structures and subnational entities region. And that is all of my topic, and the second one who will report the history is my co-reporter. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Engine Karidinawana Meljan and I'm going to discuss about the history of Asian regionalism. So let's begin. Asian regionalism is emerging against the backdrop of the remarkable half-century of economic development. In 4 decades, from 1956 to 1996, East Asian living standards, as measured by real inflation-adjusted output per person, rose at a rate faster than has ever been sustained anywhere else. Of the 10 economies that recorded average rises of 4.5% a year or more during that period, 8 were in East Asia, as were all 4 exceeded 5%. Other Asian economies rank in the upper tier of the world's growth distribution. So, over those 4 decades, living standards in the 16 integrating Asian economies that were analyzed in this study grew at an average of 5% a year, while the world as a whole averaged only 1.9%. Although many other countries have experienced rapid growth over several years. So, this is the chart rating together with the number of economies. As what I have mentioned about the percentage of rapid growth from 1956 to 1996. So from here, we can see the Asia's exceptional growth record, which is the world distribution economies. And also, this is a long-term capital growth rate. As what you have seen here, the average per capita GDP or gross domestic product growth rate from 1956 to 1996. The percentage of 1.5 to 3% has a number of economies of 37, and including here the Philippines, while beside of it got the percentage of got the 3 to 4.5 percentage of growth rate, and 12 number of economies, which includes the Indonesia. And on the other hand, the percentage of 4.5 or greater got the number of economies, which is 10 number of economies, and which includes here the Republic of China, Hong Kong, China, Japan, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Taipei, China, and lastly the Thailand. So here below, the world as a whole got 1.9 percentage of average per capita GDP growth rate. Integrating Asia got 5%, and the rest of the world got 1.7%. These extraordinary results were achieved by economies that differed widely in size, incomes, endowments of natural, human, and capital resources. And also, there is some aspects of specialization patterns and political organizations, language, culture, and history. While the economy's development has not resulted from a uniform strategy, the evidence suggests that their policies and growth trajectories involve basic similarities. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Engineer Kadit Kadungog, Prof. Marquez, student in University of Cebu, major in Bismarck Third Year College. I'm here to report when did it begin. Regionalism in Asia developed toward the end of the Cold War, with the creation of various regional institutions for nearly 2 decades after the 1980s. The conflict between the two global powers, the United States and China in terms of commerce, technological advancements, and predominance in international politics is currently growing. The possibility of Sino-American trade war, that so-called New Cold War, or economic war, not only symbolizes the escalation of this struggle, but also the alternation of international order as a result of a shift in power balance and the establishment of challenger to the present US-led international liberal order. Most IR experts are concerned about the impact of this confrontation on East Asian Pacific regional circumstances, as well as the possibilities of this confrontation and its uncertain global conditions. The battle between two global giants, the United States and China, is intensifying in terms of trade and technology advancement, as well as hegemony in international politics. In today's international scenario, the possibility of a Sino-US conflict, the new Cold War or economic war, denotes not only escalation of this conflict, but also the alternation of international order as a result of a shifting power balance and establishment of a challenger to the existing US-led international liberal order. Asia's regionalism grew after the Cold War ended with the establishment of numerous regional institutions lasting nearly 2 decades following the 1980s. In the context of the shifting regional circumstances brought on by the rise of Sino-US tensions. Since the end of 20s, the promotion of regionalism in Asia has become increasingly active. For nearly 2 decades, after the end of the Cold War, regionalism and regional institutions became important aspects of international relations in Asia, and how and why they are presently become significant active in response to the uncertain international circumstances caused by changes in erosion or existing international and regional orders. In terms of the former, students argues that the international liberal order led by the United States aided the rise of Asian regionalism. And thank you.
My name is Agent Cadet Sartorio Kinit P. To be continued, the Asian regionalism. Asian regionalism moved forward steadily until 1997 Asian financial crisis. Regional countries were hit hard by the multiple of follow-on crises. Affected the economies felt the panic and were not able to cope with serious challenges, and they discovered that existing regional mechanisms were of little use in either protecting the region or helping it recover. There were two main reasons for this ineffectiveness. First, the existing mechanism remained mostly to be regular dialogue formed and could not generate necessary research when needed. Second was a lack of the confidence. The Southeast Asian countries believed that existing regional mechanism served the American and Western interests and the expanse of the regional countries. Through the promoting trade and economic cooperation was a regional initiative for the enhancing Asian regionalism and hope the building a regional bloc to increase Asia clout in global trade talks has not materialized as yet. Asian regionalism, or could the truth the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation as a regional institution for economic cooperation, momentum for regionalism in Asia has gradually development and lead to institutionalized regional congress. It can help to sustain global economic progress because Asian regionalism is the product of economic interaction and political planning. As a result of the successful outward-oriented growth strategies, Asian economics have grown not only richer but also closer together. In recent years, new technological trades have the further strength. These among them has of the rise of the India and the region growing economy. That's all and thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Engine Cadet Villanueva Aljon from University of Cebu, EBTC campus. So today, I will discuss the purpose of Asian regionalism. So the purpose of Asian regionalism it seeks to achieve legitimacy for definition of boundaries and to obtain approval for this definition in cultural and political and a popular official understanding. So thus regionalism is concerned with giving meaning to bounded material and symbolic words in an effort to create intersubjective meanings. So Asian regionalism concerns phrases and story more than artifact, and it is concerned with emphasizing the moral particularity of one population bounded by territory, and with valorizing regional culture as mean as to create regional identity. So my explanation of that is it's to aim and establish legitimacy for boundaries definition and to gain acceptance for this definition in a cultural and political as well as public and official understanding. So in order to construct intersubjective meanings, regionalism is concerned with bringing meanings to restricted materials and symbolic real more than artifacts. And also, regionalism is concerned with phrases and story. It is a concern with emphasizing the moral particularity of population defined by as well as valorizing regional culture as means as of establishing regional identity. So based on my research, Asian regionalism is a primary motivated by the desire to advance welfare in the region. It will not do by distracting from development elsewhere. On the contrary, Asian regionalism can help to sustain global economic process at the time when other major regions are reaching economic maturity. It means regionalism can help our country to sustain the global economic progress at the time. So next is based on my research, I discovered um, the benefits of Asian regionalism. So the benefits of Asian regionalism to our country, the Philippines, is to more and better job. So more and better job with the progressive dynamic between the Asian region with easier and cheaper to travel option, goods and service. It's only make sense that it's come with the extended bonus or better employments and also the opportunities. Is a greater number of It's a greater number of on better paying jobs with an Asian region's progressive dynamic, which include easier and cheaper travel alternatives, is only a natural that is comes with the added benefits of better job prospects. That's all.
Good day, everyone. My name is Vincent John C. Swerte, and I'm going to tackle about uh, the two examples of the ASEAN regionalism. So, a while ago, um, my fellow groupmates discussed about the regionalism, or what is the purpose or concept of regionalism. So, regionalism, process and story more than artifact. So it is processed as a story that more than an artifact. It is concerned with emphasizing the moral particularity of population bounded by territory and with valorizing regional culture as a means to create regional identity. So these are the definition that my fellow groupmates discuss about. And when you listen to him, regionalism is very important on our country, especially on Asia, Asian country. So these are the two examples of regionalism. So first is the APEC, which means the APEC stands for Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, which um, which was established as a mechanism to foster the creation of a free trade area. To foster the creation of free trade area, which means that we to with APEC, um, we have a free trade area. Will the barrier will be minimized, and APEC more focuses on trading and economic growth in the Asia Pacific. When we talks about trading and economic growth, the GDP or gross domestic um, products are included here because trading we can trade using the money and its value. Um, for example, the bank, the and other gross domestic product, and APEC also reducing trade barriers and increases the economic prosperity among its 21 members. And the ASEAN, which the next is example is the ASEAN. ASEAN stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Um, is a regional groupings that aims to promote economic and security cooperation among its 10 members, which are the Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Uh, the those are the two examples of the ASEAN regionalism. Those are the APEC and the ASEAN more focused on the economic growth, which um, benefited us in the because we belong on the ASEAN country, and these are very useful because the one who benefited is our country, and and like I say like I said before a while ago, um, we can benefit the this propaganda or ASEAN regionalism, because when it comes to investments, we can earn profits together the trading, and thus that will be very important on us. And that's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the contemporary world. Today, we are going to discuss the last unit before we have our midterm examinations. It's about the Asian regionalism. But today, we will have an introduction to Asian regionalism. The next part will be on my next lecture video. So, last time ay nag-define na tayo ng globalization, international trade, market integration, global governance, the interstate system. And right now, tiningnan natin ang world of regions, na ang regions ay iba't iba ang dahil sa pagbabago ng mundo ay merong global divides. May global north, may global south. Although the world is globalizing very quickly because of technology, because of advance in logistics, and computers, meron ding isang idea na patuloy na lumalakas, umiigting. Ito yung idea natin ng regionalism. Okay? So, concepts. Global, and then meron ding region. Okay? So, pasimplihin natin. Halimbawa, dito sa Pilipinas, meron tayong mga national issues, hindi ba? And meron din tayong mga regional na mga issues. Pag sinabi nating regional, ito yung mga nasa sarili nating regions lamang. Pag national, ito, syempre, naiintindihan naman natin na kino-cover nito lahat na mga issues sa ating bansa. Pag region, ay ito ay doon lamang nakafocus sa specific area na yon. Ganun din sa contemporary world. Meron tayo na global at meron din tayong region. Okay? So today, we will introduce to you the Asian regionalism. Objectives. Sa lesson natin on Asian regionalism, we will define regionalism. We will identify factors affecting regionalism in Asia and understand how Asian nations deal with globalization and regionalism. Okay, let's move on to definitions first. Ano ba yung regionalism? Regionalism is a strengthened collective identity in a conglomerate of nations occupying a particular geographic area or aiming at shared goals, increase in economic exchanges in particular area. It can also refer to decentralization of political powers or competencies from higher towards a lower political level. Bago ko i-discuss yun, ay tingnan muna natin ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng underlined na word dito, conglomerate. When we say conglomerate, it's a number of different things or parts that are put or grouped together to form a whole but remain distinct entities. Okay? Naiintindihan ba natin yun? Pag nagkakaroon ng regionalism, katulad nung sinabi ko kanina sa inyo sa opening introduction natin, ay merong shift, decentralize. Diba? You centralize, you decentralize. May shift from the political powers down to a lower level political level. And sinasabi din dito ay malakas yung pagsasama-sama ng grupo ng mga bansa na magkakatabi, magkakapitbahay, o nasa iisang bahagi ng mundo, iisa yung kanilang kinalalagyang geographic area, at ang kanilang goal, ang kanilang objective ay mapabuti ang kanilang ekonomiya, makapagtulungan sila, and to ensure that they share the same goals in this particular area. Kasi sa mundo naman, di ba, we can say na, oh, ito talaga yung mga Asian countries, may groupings dito. On the other hand, may group din ang mga countries sa Africa. And sa Europe din ay meron din. And North America. Nabanggit na natin yun previously sa ating mga lessons. So that's the idea of regionalism. Sinasabi na amidst globalization, another phenomenon is becoming more apparent. Mas lumalabas din ang regionalism. Kahit sinabi natin na the world is very interconnected and independent, pero yung mga bansa na nasa isang particular region ay lumalakas din yung kanilang pakikipag-ugnayan, samahan sa trade, sa international relations. Tanaka and Inoguchi articulated that after the Cold War, the relations between nations have been dynamic and unique as characterized by the following. So, again, naalala niyo yun, diniscuss natin ang Cold War, hindi ba? The Cold War between the United States of America and the former Soviet Union. Ang sinasabi dito ay after ng Cold War, ano ba yung naging kalagayan or kalakaran sa international relations, sa relationships ng mga bansa sa isa't isa. Characterizing post-Cold War international relations. Ang una, countries tend to rely on global platforms such as the United Nations in resolving regional conflicts, thus paving the way for the emergence of peacekeeping initiatives and regional trade alliances. Remember the trade alliances na binanggit ko sa inyo? Meron dito sa Asia, Southeast Asia, meron sa South Africa, meron sa Africa, meron sa South America, and meron din sa Europe, and sa North America. Nations nowadays become more aggregable as indicated by less profound armed conflicts and wars among nations. Pag sinabi nating aggregable, pwede nating sabihin na they are more willing na mapagrupo or mapasama sa mga iba pang mga bansa in terms of pursuing same goals, shared goals. Sinasabi din na ang mga conflicts between nations are still present kahit 'di ba mas naging sabihin na natin mas naging palakaibigan ang mga bansa sa iba pang mga bansa. Pero nag-e-exist pa din ang conflict. Kasama na riyan ang territorial disputes. At tayo sa Pilipinas ay hindi bago sa territorial disputes dahil tayo mismo ay may sariling territorial disputes sa ibang mga bansa. These territorial disputes have implications on assertion of political powers in certain region. Okay? So, sa Asian region, ang dispute kasi ng teritoryo ay parang nagpapakita na ipinapakita mo yung lakas mo politically kapag nakukuha mo or naggagawa mo yung gusto mo sa isang particular na lugar ay parang pagpapakita din ng lakas ng bansa mo para makontrol yung mga nangyayari sa isang specific na geographical location sa mundo. Dati-rate, conflicts could have been resolved outright. Mas mabilis na mariresolve agad yung mga territorial dispute. Halimbawa, by bloody wars, mag-aaway agad yan, magigera agad yan. Pero ang pagkakaiba sa contemporary world, nations are using diplomatic means to mitigate the possibility of wars. Hanggat maaari, mag-usap tayo. Diplomasya, diplomacy. Pag-usapan natin to. Huwag tayong mag-away. Dahil kapag nag-away tayo, hindi lang ekonomiya natin yung maaapektuhan. Lahat ng bahagi ng buhay ng ating mga mamamayan ay maaapektuhan. Yun ang iniiwasan ng mga bansa. That's why they go for diplomatic means ito para mapigilan ang giyera. Ito ay ilan lamang sa mga examples ng existing territorial conflicts sa mundo ngayon. Of course, ang kinabibilangan ng Pilipinas, ang South China Sea territorial disputes covering islands and reefs in the South China Sea or what we call the West Philippine Sea. China versus several nations including the Philippines, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam. Yan ang iba pang claimants ng mga islands dito sa South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. Isa pa ang Senkaku Islands ng East China Sea. Ito ay ang China versus Japan. Ang Korean Peninsula, the North Korea and South Korea. Kung kayo ay nanonood ng Korean drama, ito ay sentro dito ang Korean conflict sa Crash Landing on You, di ba? Yung ating previous reading na ibinigay ko sa inyo. Ang Israel and Palestine conflict, Lakda territory. This is India versus Pakistan versus China. Tatlo yung claimants sa Lakda territory. Kasi sa northern part of India, ito na nasa area din ng Pakistan at ng China. Ang Preah-Vihear dispute ng Thailand at Cambodia, it's a territorial dispute na umabot sa international courts. Dahil sinasabi ng Cambodia na kanila yung area na yun. Territory nila yun. Pero ang Thailand naman ay sinasabi din nila na kanila din yun. And based on the historical records. So nag-deploy sila ng mga sundalo hanggang sa umabot sa nagkakaroon ng shootouts affecting that particular region. So kung dito sa South China Sea, this is affecting the Asian region, Southeast Asia, and Asia as a whole. Because ang South China Sea ay daanan ng multi-billion na kargamento, export-imports ng mga bansa. It's a passage. Ngayon, kung magkakagera sa lugar na ito, what will happen to international trade? Anong mangyayari? Makakadaan ba ang mga eroplano, ang mga barko ng malaya when this is a passage? Diba? So, these are the existing territorial conflicts. Letter B. After the Cold War, there is an emergence of regional cooperation among countries to achieve political and economic goals. Countries have become more open to collaborate with other countries in terms of economic and human development. So, example na economic development, yung ibang mga bansa nagbibigay ng mga grants, yung ibibigay mo yung amount na yun, tas yung bansa ay gagamitin ito para sa social services, health, education, etc. Pwede ding magpautang. Bahagi yan ng isang malaking scheme ng development assistance ng mga bansa sa iba pang mga bansa na mas mahihirap. Pag sa human development naman, ang ibang mga bansa ay nagbibigay ng scholarship sa mga bansa na developing na mahihirap. Pinag-aaral ang mga mag-aaral sa mga students sa ibang mga bansa, nagkakaroon ng cultural exchange and people-to-people interaction. After the Cold War, ang isa pa ay ang nations ay nagkaroon ng commitment to their cultural identities. Huntington agrees that in post-Cold War, there has been a shift from the Western countries to group of nations with similar cultural identities. Nations are becoming more committed to other nations with cultural identity they share. So kung pare-pareho, halos nagkakatulad kayo ng ways of life ng inyong culture, mas willing yung mga bansa na makigrupo, makipagkaibigan sa mga bansang ito. Ang isang natin dito ay ang konsepto ng regionalism ay sabi ni Hetne ay makikita natin sa varying degrees. Pwede nating tingnan ang region as a geographical unit, yung lokasyon. Pwede din itong tingnan as a social system. At pwede din itong tingnan as an organized cooperation. Ngayon,